Heyo everybody, Haku here with my read-through for Chapter 2, well the first part of my read-through for Chapter 2 of Magical Girl Raising Project, or Mahou Shoujo Ikusei Keikaku, Jokers, Chapter 2, The Gathering. So I'm really excited for this one. I loved the first chapter, it was so good. We got our reintroduction for a lot of old characters and what they're up to. Primarily Snow White was really good, the way her story was told, and I love the Pure Elements and Prism Cherry. They are so good. I friggin' love them. But it looks like as soon as I click on this one, I see a new name, Feelaroo. So because of that, it looks like we're probably going to get another introduction chapter, maybe introducing a new group. That would make a lot of sense, actually, if we spent maybe the first 3 chapters introducing all the characters, and then from there we get into whatever the deeper plot stuff that's moving on is. So I guess we'll see. We'll see what happens. So with that out of the way, I guess let's just get started reading. I'm excited to see what we got. The way I'm going to split this up is, I think since there are 6 chapters, it would be the same amount of videos if I split it into 4 parts per chapter, but I think I can do 3 parts per chapter, so it's going to take even less time to get through Jokers than it did for Limited. So yeah, I'm going to be planning to do 3 parts for each chapter, so it'll take me 3 weeks to get through each chapter. And for this one, it's a bit shorter than last time, so the videos are probably going to be 30-40 minutes apiece. It doesn't evenly line up to where I can have 3 16-page things for this and end at page breaks. So what I'm going to try to do is make it to page 17 by the end of this video. The next video I will do the page break on page 17. So I'll get to that page break and then I'll go from, or scene break, whatever. But I'll go from there to the one on page 35 in the second part, and then from there to finish it up in the third part. Again, this can always change while I'm reading. If I want to read more and want to push further and think that I can, then I will. But that's the way I plan to split it into 3, at least for now, because of the way it's structured. But either way, because I don't read it ahead of time, this is all my first reaction to stuff, but I always check around where I want to stop and see where the scene break is, so I know how long to record each part. But either way. So we have Chapter 2, The Gathering, and we're starting with Feelaroo. Is it Feelaroo, or is it supposed to be like Feeler? Like Feelaroo. So, is her name supposed to be Feeler? I'm going to just go with Feelaroo. I'm going to trust it. But I can look it up after this. I can look up the pronunciation, probably. The magical girl Feelaroo was grasping a magical phone in her hand. On screen was a message from an unknown number. Do not use technology from the land of magic. There are plans to make man-made magical girls. The upper echelons of the land of magic are watching the situation carefully. To those who have information, or to those who have captured these man-made magical girls, they plan to reward you with a prize. Okay. If you move ahead of the others, then your chances of getting a prize and making connections with the upper echelons of the land of magic will rise, it seems. And this sucks, because it seems like the land of magic magical girls will be going after the ones that I like, which are the man-made ones. Okay, I wish you luck. Also, do not reveal the contents of this message to anyone else. If you do, you and the other person's memory will be erased. From a friend. So that's weird, I wonder which one Feelaroo is. I can't tell from the name. The scandal of prisoner magical girls that were temporarily released to perform dirty work became a severe problem that spread, so the magical girl prison system began to review itself. Because of that, the magical girl who never dirtied her hands with corruption, Feelaroo, lost her job. Okay. She heard that the system had changed. The prisoners were no longer just simply sealed, but they were given learning and reflection. On top of that, the security levels have increased. There were more guards on mutual monitoring duties. They even introduced new technologies to the barriers. It was completely remade into a new rehabilitation facility. Even though it's something new, prison won't just suddenly go away now. It'll take time to transfer the prisoners that they have to keep confined. That's what she thought, but this time the Land of Magic was acting too quickly. Since the incident was discovered, they entered a transitional period in less than a month, their actions being done under strict vigilance by several powerful operators. And the old prison was closed. There was nothing like a closing ceremony. They quite easily just said, "It's over." Even Feeler finally noticed that now. She didn't hear anything about a new place or schedule. When she hurriedly asked her superiors, they said, "We're currently in a standby state." What on earth was a standby state? Even when she asked, they wouldn't tell her. They only gave her vague expressions, good deeds, and twisting words around, saying that she won't get her pending salary. Not to mention, they added that they weren't prohibiting her from seeking other job activities. So Filaru knew that she wasn't being incorporated into the new system. Filaru was at a loss. She wasn't really good at socializing with people up till now. But if she wanted to find a new employment, she needed to make a network of magical girls. She needed to go to a variety of gatherings. Games at tea parties, karaoke and camping, colleagues and mentors that have connections with the Land of Magic, or sometimes just meeting a junior magical girl. Either way, she had to sell herself. She was on the verge of thinking it was annoying. No, she probably did think it was annoying. But she had to promote herself. She had to find out if people were talking about jobs. The results didn't really come out. Nobody was willing to listen to a former magical girl prison staff member. She hasn't found unemployment for over half a month. She was just pushing her luck. She understood that, but she remembered the balance on her account. Sighs overflowed. She's been making connections, but she needed something ahead of her networking. She also attended a party on that day. When she came back, it had been 9 p.m. As usual, after watching her DVDs, she'd browse the internet. But when she took out her magical phone, she noticed the sound of a message arriving. It wasn't an invitation to any gatherings. It wasn't from her former boss or her colleagues either. It wasn't a text from one of her friends that she had just met earlier, and the address was different from the Land of Magic. Since it was addressed to a magical girl, she had no doubt that it's related to her. Maybe this was also related to a job. Expectations filled her heart as she opened the mail. There, she saw that several things that were marked. Filaru looked at the text. She read it again carefully a second time. After the third time, she was reading while holding her chest. Was this a prank? If this wasn't a prank, what was it? Alright, let me get a sip of water. Alright, so now we have Styler Mimi. Okay, so if Styler Mimi is the one that has the very makeup theme design, then I'm gonna guess that Filaru was the plant one, because she was on the same page but before. That's not actually, now that I'm thinking about it, that's not actually a good reason to guess it was her, but it's probably somebody from that same page, so I'm gonna guess the plant girl. So now we have Styler Mimi. Mapam, who was a magical girl with overwhelming fighting abilities and military tactics, attracted a large number of like-minded magical The group was called the Mahou School. For better or worse, these were an incredible group of stoic people on a quest to seek strength. The magical girls that they loved were based off of battle. Their affections were that of bloodlust, living like heroes to defeat evil, and because they followed a way of life whose reason is to train their bodies, these are magical girls who found meaning in life through battle or seeking strength. These rampant groups of people were swarming in like moths to a flame. While the Mahou School was holding an informal gathering, they all came like a great tide. When the Clanberry incident came to light, until Mapam's fall, it was said that those who graduated the Mahou School would live to become paid working magical girls. Those who were related to the Mahou School would ask, "Who's the strongest magical girl in Mahou School?" Most would reply with Mapam. Even after Mapam was killed in action, that hasn't changed. Although there were some who had confidence and proclaimed their own name, they were such a minority that it didn't affect the overall percentage. If someone asked who's the most hated magical girl in Mahou School, then 70% of them would say Marika Fuguroi. 20% of them would bitterly say that Marika Fuguroi has been expelled from the Mahou School, so she has nothing to do with it anymore, meaning about 90% of them were saying it was Marika Fuguroi. That's great. And Fuku is clothing, so maybe Marika Fuguroi is the one we're seeing right now, Styler Mimi. The magical girl who arranged death games to magical girl candidates, the forest musician Clanberry, or criminal followers of Clanberry who tried to actively arrange death games of their own, like Flame Flamey, also had their names cited for their horrible deeds, but Marika Fuguroi was the kind of person who'd received the same treatment. Like that. That's what Styler Mimi thought. She had an abundance of episodes, the latest one being the most atrocious. 90% of the magical girls who were there sighed out and said, "I mean, it is her," while the other 10% wanted vengeance and sanctions against her. It's been 1 month from now, at a banquet hall in a certain hotel in Tokyo. There were girls gathered about with bright and flashy costumes. At first glance, you wouldn't think these were suitable clothes for leisurely ceremonies, but for a magical girl, this doubled as a formal costume. This was a suitable clothing for the memorial of Malpam, who lived and died as a magical girl. Its progress was already roughly finished. The VIPs were already leaving the banquet hall. The people from the Foreign Affairs divisions were returning with a face that looked like the end of the world. Most of the magical girls had already left. The remaining Mahou School people who had been guided by Malpam talked about memories of the deceased. The person whose face was pale, the person who was biting her lip, the person who was crying with a cup on her hand, the person who was restless while eating her food. There were even those who were whispering with specifically strict expressions. Is this it for Mahou School, then? Such a sad thing. The influence of Foreign Affairs is going to drop. What goes around comes around. Those guys are as good as dead. If Foreign Affairs just saved Mal's power and didn't give her that job, this wouldn't have happened. They were in a civilized area, so while I wouldn't say there weren't any areas she could have used as a battlefield, if she at least fought in space, she wouldn't have been limited in her fighting ability. Stupid. This is all stupid. Mal should have refused. Without Mal, the Foreign Affairs Division's finished. So then, I guess the next big deal would be examination with their new magical girl hunter then. No, the examination division lost an ace of their own in the incident, a magical girl named Hanageko Kujo. I've only fought her once, but she was really good. While losing her life was a disaster. Not even the aces are safe. Okay, well that's probably going to be what the next arc is about. Or the arc after next, I don't remember. Jokers, Aces, and Queens, yeah, the next arc. I heard they're going to make a new division for catching even worse magical girls. Examination's good at is good at investigation and monitoring, but they can't handle war. Then what about human resources? I heard the head's a pretty good one. While listening to the whispers of the magical girls with the sound of the rain tapping the windows, Mimi stared at the table. There was a flat square board on the table that held a variety of multicolored flowers. Malpam's deeds of arms were laid out side by side, saying that a great magical girl sleeps here. She really was a great magical girl, an endlessly strong magical girl. However, she won't awaken a second time. On the side of the table was a bust of Mao. It seemed that a monument had been installed somewhere to write of her great deeds, but the magical girl's bust was like a garage kit figure, though it was still filled with dignity. She drank a cup of oolong tea to shake off her sentimental feelings. Mimi wasn't affiliated with the Mahou School. Her magical skill... Okay, so she isn't Marika, I guess? I don't know. Maybe she is. Her magical skill was for making bodies beautiful. Not suited for battle, her personality of wanting to avoid trouble was also not suited for a warrior. As she was Mahou School's exclusive stylist and barber when Malpam was alive, she became a death cosmetic, restoring Malpam's battered and destroyed body back to beauty after her death. This was probably her last job for the Mahou School, with the pillar that was Malpam breaking apart and the Foreign Affairs Division who had always backed them now falling. There was no one to support the Mahou School. There have always been people in the Foreign Affairs Division that wondered if putting all the magical girls who wanted strength in one place was a good idea, but sure they were silent. In terms of the power balance, the Foreign Affairs could use it as a show of power. there had to have been people like that too. She's going to lose a very large customer, but her life will be in no trouble. There were plenty of magical girls who still needed Styler Mimi's powers. A magical girl's costume and hairstyle were fundamentally unchangeable. There were people who didn't think it was annoying, but there were also some who felt bored or lonely since they couldn't change it too. The majority of magical girls were young girls. It was an age where they wanted to decorate themselves. Even when they were told not changing is okay and they would stay the same, their response would still be a grumble. But even a human hairstylist would find it difficult with human technology. Even if they just layered on extra clothing due to a magical girl's speed, they'd rip in the blink of an eye. That's where Styler Mimi came in. With Mimi's magical skill, she's very useful. With Mimi's magical skill, a magical girl's dream fantasy, makeup, and facial features can change. All over the country, magical girls who sought out Mimi's powers gathered. They'd give her donations, which were called donations because if she called them compensation, that'd cause problems, and returned home safely. Even if the mouse school disappeared, that life cycle wouldn't change. Even if she had a reservation after this memorial, she even had a reservation after this memorial party was over. She had to go home in time. As she thought of that, someone in front of her shouted in a loud voice. She looked to the front of her, Mimi's eyebrows furrowed. A magical girl who was sobbing fell on her back. The people whispering, the people crying, and even the people who were depressed all gazed at her. Her red to green hair graduation was like the leaves of a plant. Okay, here's the plant girl. And of course she'd be in Mahou school like the other plant girls. Well, like Clamberry and Clamberry's biggest student who devoted herself to fighting Melville. But either way, since the flower vendor part of her name... Oh wait, hold on, I skipped a part. Her red to green hair graduation was like the leaves of a plant. More importantly, there was a gigantic sunflower that bloomed on her head that destroyed the solemnness of the ceremony. Somehow, her challenging smile also seemed to only make a fool of everyone else in the room. The flower vendor, Marika Fukuroi. Since the flower vendor part of her name was gone when she was expelled from the Mahou school, now she's just Marika Fukuroi. Okay, so the forced musician, names like that must be names given if you're part of Mahou school. Okay, so now she's just Marika Fukuroi. She had kicked down a crying magical girl. Even Mimi, who didn't see the situation, could understand it. Is everyone that came here just losers? Come on, at least give me a fight. At the same time she shouted, she jumped to a nearby magical girl. The two of them tangled, crumpling to the floor. Somewhere Mimi couldn't see from where she's standing, but she did hear the flashy sounds of the destruction reverberating. Mimi instantly ran to the back, to the sound where the hard objects broke. Screaming, anger, someone shouting out, "What's with all that screaming? Someone get her. No, better yet, kill her." Sometimes Marika Fukuroi's voice would take the opportunity to reply back, "Come and get me then, why don't you?" Mimi didn't try to find out what happened in the end. She wasn't someone who should be concerned with it. According to the rumors, the majority of ex-Mahou school students were told to leave the hotel, but there were parts she didn't hear as well. Styler Mimi loved peacefulness more than anything. Adventure was next to danger. Just having danger was out of the question. It was one thing if it was a job, but anything else was not her concern. Marika Fukuroi had nothing to do with her. Okay. Alright. Yet somehow, the magical girl she came face to face with, knocking on her workplace door, was a girl with a beautiful lily flower blooming on her head. So I got an interesting looking text. All the Mahou school people lost their luster, and taking them with me'll be boring. You like these kind of things, right though? Right, Mimi? Want to come with? No. You all set? I said no. If you don't have any work for me, then leave. They didn't really say what's up, but they said there's some powerful people there. I said I won't come with... Since her collar was being dragged with a terribly fast momentum, her last words were nothing but a scream. That's great. I enjoy them. Okay, so we have the two of them, we have Filaroo, and now we have Lady Proud. I'm trying to remember who else was on that page. So we added the 5 elements, essentially, on the one page. Snow White was on the middle page, I believe. That's 6, so there should be 10 more. I guess that would mean 5 on the page with Snow White and 5 on this page, or were there 6? There was the dragon chick, there was the frog, flower girl, makeup girl. Those are the only 4 I remember on that page. But again, I'm certain there was at least one more. But again, you don't need to remind me because I'm going to be reading the chapter, of course. But Lady Proud is the next name that comes up, so perhaps Lady Proud is the dragon one. Does that mean Filaroo is the weather one? I wouldn't think so, but who knows? We'll see, I guess. But starting with Lady Proud on page 8. The Foreign Affairs Division was standing on the brink. Losing Malpam has been painful. No other magical girl could replace Malpam. War seemed to still be one way of handling diplomacy. The one who controls fighting power controls diplomacy. No matter how wise you were, if a strong person were to decide something, there's no way a weaker person could resist. Losing a military power such as Malpam meant the Foreign Affairs Division couldn't keep working the way they would either. It wasn't merely a loss of power, they wouldn't even be able to do their original jobs. This has to do with the very existence of the Foreign Affairs Division. It could be said that this was a matter of life and death. Malpam's influence within the Foreign Affairs Division was equal to God. There were even those who believed in her past respect and worship. It said that it would be hard to advance if you weren't a graduate of the Mahou School, and the Mahou School alumni made a faction that looked out for their own. When the Clanberry incident was discovered, even when Malpam fell, that chapter had not been destroyed. With Malpam's death, the Foreign Affairs Foundation is shaking. At the same time as they were in trouble, chances rolled in. Now the non-mainstream factions can gain power and become mainstream, probably. Lady Proud, a magical girl who belonged to the Foreign Affairs Division, had ambition. Just like the fact that she was not a graduate of the Mahou School gave her a feeling like eating cold rice, she could feel it hardening her skin and sinking into her pores. Now that the huge roadblock that was Malpam had been removed, she can rise to the top. As sub-leader, she visited the local area as part of her job following Malpam before going home. One magical girl said, "Guess this time I be leader, huh?" She didn't expect to be heard, though her real intention had been leaked out without one word. Meeting Lady Proud's eyes, the girl became flustered and placed her hand on her mouth. That's right. This time Lady Proud will act as leader. The girl may think that she's capable, but in reality she's not. At least that's what the girl was acting like. The back of her heart burnt with shame. She knew this feeling more than anyone else. No matter how well Lady Proud did her job, it would never match Malpam. When Malpam came, she changed the air of her surroundings completely. Friends and foes became inspired. When Lady Proud became leader, she saw that her subordinates worked like hoodlums. When Malpam was leader, her subordinates worked like her elite special forces trained in both body and mind. Malpam was powerful, but she was nothing but powerful, and that power made her a god in foreign affairs. However, even Malpam was killed. The dead could not beat the living. No matter how powerful you were in life, no one would fear you when you're dead. Without fear, no one would act. She remembered the absurdity of herself on how she was happy at someone's death, but she wanted to make use of the opportunity. If she didn't act now, she wouldn't be able to for the rest of her life, and the Foreign Affairs Division will take some time to decay. While watching the screen together with Umbrain, she raised a surprised voice. There was a text. Umbrain, though, could also be the one dragon-looking magical girl. Kind of bummed that I can't remember the 5th one that was on that page right now off the top of my head. Either way, watching the screen together with Umbrain, she raised a surprised voice. There was a text talking about the existence of a laboratory that created man-made magical girls. The sender was anonymous. They only said it came from someone who wished to see the Foreign Affairs Division develop more. Okay. If anyone saw it, they'd dismiss it as a prank. Lady Proud was the same. It smelled fishy. She deleted it, put it in the trash. After thinking about it for 10 minutes, she took it from the trash and placed it back. She felt something. She couldn't leave it as it was. She was troubled. Examined it, and if it were a prank, then she'd have been pranked. She thought as she left for S City. So, this is interesting in that I wonder if this is once again, if this is a new big bad pulling strings, like the like the queen-looking chick, but I think the queen-looking chick might actually secretly be the professor, which means she could be pulling strings. Maybe she makes the supposed man-made magical girls, and then she also sends people like Snow White and others out by sending messages from a friend. So it seems like all a big setup. I just don't know if Flet is the one setting it all up again, or if it's a new big bad. But either way, we'll see. Alright, someone who wishes to see the Foreign Affairs Division develop more, of course. Oh wait, yeah. Okay, left for a city. According to the text, there was technology to create magical girls without the power of the Land of Magic. Just capturing them could earn her a little merit. This wasn't a case that the Foreign Affairs Division should put their hands in. Going out of line was fine, though. But if they weren't caught, if she could get that technology in her pocket, then that's a different story. How useful would the technology of making man-made magical girls be? Were there any unique magical skills? How productive would they be? Were there any ethical problems? If they had good performance that could be used, the Foreign Affairs Division could regain the power of the old days again. The one at the head of the command then would be Lady Proud. She sniffed out. She tried to find the smell of blood within the particles of the air. Okay, so she is the vampire dragon-looking one. She can smell blood in the air. Try to smell blood within particles of the air. The weight, the odor, the iron mix, the self-assertion was strong. After sniffing with her nose, she caught it in 5 minutes. Lady Proud wore a batwing-like cloak. She had a garlic hair ornament. Her fangs were abnormally long and sharp. Her eyes glinted in the darkness, and she had a European noble-looking face. In short, she had a vampire motif. Although she didn't have a... Oh, Umbrain has umbrella and rain as a portmanteau. Okay, so that's probably the frog one. Yeah, Umbrain. Duh. I just got that. Although she didn't have a sharp sense of smell for anything in general, she had one specifically for blood. Dogs and pigs, she was able to compete with those animals who were sensitive to the smell of blood. When she entered S City, she immediately smelled out for blood. If an accident happened, blood would spill. Humans and magical girls were no different on that. Based on the text, the accident should have already occurred. Running around blindly in the city would gain her very little. At worst, she'd have to deal with the local magical girl. If she did, she'd have nothing to think of as an excuse. That'd be equal to the Foreign Affairs Division not having an excuse to be here. Within S City, just walking a little bit made her feel an unusual smell of blood. It wasn't human blood, it wasn't dog or cat blood either. It was similar to a magical girl's, but it was more beast-like. It was like a bear, wolf, or boar that had been mixed with a magical smell. It was like a magical girl, like a beast. What kind of smell was it? Man-made magical girls. Or maybe it's actually the disruptors. From the telegraph pole on the rental video shop, she followed the the electric wires and the smell. This was a comfortable course for a magical girl's movements. If whatever had this scent was some kind of man-made magical girl, then did they get injured? The smell was thick but not new, probably somewhere within a week, at least more than 2 days old. Slowly following the traces of the thick smell, the place it took her to was the mountains. Even though it's the largest prefecture in the city, having a countryside would be good for the city. There should be mountains where people couldn't go to, woods and forests too. She was able to guess what happened here. The trees were knocked down, the ground was hollow. There were destructive marks like a bomb that exploded. A magical girl could definitely cause something like this. She thought she could find a person behind that thick scent. She followed the traces of the thickness, but she was mistaken. Follow the thickness, meaning the source of the scent was probably source of the scent was this. Something in the woods was fighting, and something bled over there. They probably returned bleeding, fleeing back to the city injured, and Lady Proud followed the trace here. She shouldn't have come this way. She should have gone the other direction. Where would they go from here? They must have a purpose on where they would go. Was this a man-made magical girl, or was this someone who defeated a man-made magical girl and collected her? Since she was drawn in by thinking, before she knew it, it had become late. Her sleeves were being pulled. Ah, she'll get tired soon, she thought as she looked at the magical girl Umbrain who puffed her cheeks. I'm tired. Yes, I thought so. Umbrain was Lady Proud's favorite. She was the one who she would trust to carry around for work that she didn't think she could do. However, Umbrain was very tired. All you do is sniff around and chase things, Proud. It's boring. I'd appreciate it if you could be just a little bit more patient. There was a saying that there were no weaklings in the Foreign Affairs Division. Umbrain, with her yellow raincoat, sky-colored large umbrella, and hundreds of miniature candies, okay, that makes a lot more sense, candies hanging from her costume, was no exception. Whether sniffing blood traces or on the battlefield, Proud can trust her back with Umbrain. From now on, it looks like they'll be fighting the man-made magical girls or whoever their captors are. Being tired was such a childish reason to withdraw that she couldn't endure. Okay. Lady Proud grabbed Umbrain's cheeks with the back of her hand. It was soft. It seemed like it sucked her in. It was moist and felt nice. There were no magical girls whose skin was dirty, but even among magical girls, Umbrain's skin was the nicest to the touch. Alright, so now we see the two of them. Okay. So we've got Umbrain and Lady Proud then. I like Lady Proud's design in the art here. Either way. She wanted to touch it with her palms, but she's heard rumors that magical girls have been sued for sexual harassment due to excessive skinship with their subordinate, so she just tried to touch it with the back of her hand. Even with the back of her hand, that unexpected feeling was transmitted. Lady Proud breathed out deeply. Her mind was filled. I said this before. I'll be the head of the Foreign Affairs Division. If that's so, then you'll be my number 2. Number 2? It means you'll be the second best. Umbrain puffed her cheeks. Regrettable, but it'd be bad if she kept having a bad mood. She had a job to do. So just be patient for a little longer. Understood? Okay, I'll be patient if it means I'll be number 2. Don't worry, it won't be long. We'll hurry and chase the scent before it disappears. Lady Proud placed her arms under the hood of the raincoat, patting Umbrain's head. Penetrating under the hood further enhanced the sensation. She whispered to Umbrain, "Let's do our best together, okay?" As Umbrain replied with happy eyes. Alright. So now we're going to Styler Mimi. Even a magical girl... let me get some water really quick. Even a magical girl needs style. That was what the heart of a maiden would say. That's also what Styler Mimi wants to provoke. These magical girls would then provide her with supplies, offerings, and donations that she could live her entire life without fear of not being able to eat. But there were other magical girls who sought out Mimi's powers for something other than maiden-like desires. When a magical girl went to an enemy's area, no matter what happens, they have to stay transformed. That was Malpom's opinion. The reaction speed between a magical girl and a human's were different, so if a magical girl wanted to surprise attack, there wouldn't be enough time to transform and you'd be killed. This wasn't fiction. Not many enemies would be nice enough to wait for your transformation scene. But there were also magical girls who can't be mistaken as humans. Large wings growing out of their back, their entire body glowing with an aura of light, a translucent body due to being a spirit. There were a certain number of magical girls that would find it difficult to blend in with humans just by changing clothes. Even if it's not extreme, magical girl hair colors can also be quite garish. There was no dye that magical girls could use. Those kinds of magical girls would need Styler Mimi. Styler Mimi's magical skill can hide their large wings, make translucent magical girls have color, dim light emissions from a bright-aurored magical girls, and dye a magical girl's hair to natural colors. Marika Fukuroi was one of those people. While her head flower could be hidden by a hat, her hair color looked like that of a plant. Leaves were growing into leaflets. Although she had relatively short hair compared to other magical girls, there were only a few ways to fully hide her hair, or she wouldn't be conspicuous. I knew I needed you, Mimi. No, you don't. Yeah, I do. If you would have made an appointment before you left, I could have disguised you perfectly. My job ends here, doesn't it? That's what stylists do. Who brings a hairdresser to enemy lines as a soldier? If you want to go with someone, pick someone stronger. She glared at her with the utmost resentment. She was laughed off. It didn't work. Marika grabbed a plastic bottle from the cup holder. She drank a lot of water. At the same time, the bullet train shook. Water falling from the edge of her mouth. I don't really know why, but I can't even call Monica or Amy. Why? You always have time for those two. I don't know. They said they were busy. Okay, maybe Monaco and Amy. Perhaps they're the two that are already out there, and they're going to meet up and join forces, of course. I don't know, said they were busy. In a world where there are people obsessed with unnecessary violence, Mimi would say that they only find joy in that because their ego wasn't as developed. It's like the middle schoolers who like reading books about serial killers in the library. Monica and Amy were two magical girls that liked to hang out with Marika a lot. Not to mention they didn't find it annoying like Mimi, they enjoyed it. When Clanberry's crimes were exposed, a lot of people were going, Clanberry did something like that? Are you sure? It wasn't Marika? So someone found joy in hanging out with someone who found joy in hanging out with Marika was maddeningly crazy. Maybe they don't like going out with you anymore. Maybe they became proper, don't you think? Yeah, Monica and Amy can be like that sometimes. She laughed it off. It'd be like that sometimes. She laughed it off again, not to mention she chuckled with a louder voice. It's the middle of the day in the weekday, and while the green car train wasn't filled with people, people were still watching. A salaryman and an old man were staring with suspicious eyes. She smiled while bowing her head. Most problems can be handled by magical girls if they smiled and bowed their heads. Even the men would have an oh well expression on their face. Hopefully everyone will just think their sister is going to some special family ceremony. Even though Mimi was worried, Marika was still smiling about. You know, I bet we're doing some awesome things right now. They probably can't even invite us. Okay, I bet they're doing some awesome things right now. They probably can't even invite us. But we're gonna do some awesome things too. We're not gonna waste time. Seriously, you're really lucky, Mimi. Lucky how? There was nothing lucky about this. 'Cause it's awesome, right? It's not awesome. I get a feeling that some tough people are gonna be there. I don't want to meet tough people. That's what they say, at least. Marika leaned forward, clenching the plastic bottle. The water poured out from the mouth of the bottle, splashing on Mimi's face. It hit her, and it hit her. Mimi didn't think of avoiding it. If she tried to block it or turn away, she wouldn't be able to avoid the inevitable front kick. That's what she judged. Her face was splashed with water. Still, she didn't close her eyes. At the same time as the water splashed down, she caught Marika's front kick with her palm. Since her power went out, her body flew. She grabbed the backrest of the chair, jumping over it and doing a half flip, killing the shock of the kick before moving to the back seat. Not bad, not bad. You're not so rusty after all. She wondered if something was funny, since Marika was holding her stomach from laughing. Marika Fuguroi was a disliked person. There was no reason not to dislike someone who randomly kicks people in the middle of her everyday life. Mimi bowed her head to the old man who opened his eyes in surprise and walked back to her original seat. She didn't want to sit next to Marika, but she didn't want to waste her green car pass. Alright, so we've made it through the first third. Let me check, the first third of this. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I liked it. I really like these characters already. We actually don't know pretty much anything about Filaru, but I like the other two, or three, actually. 4 even. Yeah, we have 4 already, and I guess Filaru is the 5th from that page then. So yeah, I like the 4 that we have come to know here. I think my favorite of them, I don't know, maybe Lady Proud. I don't know. They all have their issues. I feel like they're kind of in that slot where at the beginning of Limited, maybe what was the groups, the middle school group at the beginning of Limited, where they're not necessarily bad guys, but they could be tricked into doing the wrong things and tricked into going after the wrong people. I kind of get that feeling from them so far. So yeah, I guess that would leave the bad people as to be the last group we've not yet been introduced to. But I'm not sure that this arc is going to be as black and white as that. Especially given that last time the bad people were kind of fleh, and she's being treated as kind of a good person most of the time. I mean, not necessarily good person, but protagonist-y. But either way, I liked it. I enjoyed it so far. I do think last chapter was better. Last chapter had me dying most of the time. And I like the Pure Elements more, for sure. I'm Team Pure Elements. But either way, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did like the video, comment down there too. Tell me what you thought of this chapter so far, what you thought of my thoughts on it and all that. Like I said, next week I'll have from this page break until page 35. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe for more Magical Girl Raising Project, much more on the channel. Follow on Twitter if you want. I can try to keep you updated there on the channel or talk to you there. And if you want a link to our Discord server to talk to me or more of us on Discord, just ask and I'll give you a link. That's it. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you all next time.